What's going on, YouTube? Burlington Northern HO fan here, and today we've got a special video. It's a 100 subscriber special. I'm so thankful for all of you guys that have subscribed to my channel. I never thought I would even get any subscribers on this channel, so I'm just so grateful for that. So I figured what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you every single locomotive that I have in my collection. This might be a two-part video because I'm going to show you the locomotive and then I'm going to run it on my layout. So first part of this, I'll show all the locomotives that are in my layout, tell you a little bit about them and what I know about them and where I got them. And then in the next, maybe in the next video, if we do two parts, I will have them run around the layout. So let's start with this. Let's get this started. All right. I hope you guys are excited for this video. This video is going to be a very long video. But we're going to start with the locomotives that I have that are singles, that are I only have, so each road name of this, I only have one locomotive from. So we'll start with that, and then we'll move on to road names that I have multiple engines from. We're going to start with a steamer. This is a Rock Island model power steamer. I got this at a train show. Got a pretty nice deal on it. It's a smoker, and it's not completely realistic, but it is a very cool locomotive, and I am a big fan of Rock Island. I do want to collect more Rock Island equipment. I have some Rock Island rolling stock, but this is the only Rock Island engine that I own. But that is one of my favorite steam locomotives that I have. So let's move on to the next one. Next up, you've seen this locomotive recently in a video. Just got this locomotive. It is a Northern Pacific RDC. I got this at the Illinois Railway Museum. It's a lifelike Proto 2000. It's a I've always wanted an RDC. If I was to choose a road name for an RDC, I would get a Canadian National or Canadian Pacific one. But I will settle for Northern Pacific because I am a Burlington Northern fan, and we all know what happens with Northern Pacific. So I'm okay with it. So we'll get that locomotive. You've seen this locomotive in a recent video. It is Tri-Rail, and now I know, and I'm not dumb, it is a commuter line down in Florida. I'm not stupid. It runs a lot better since we filmed that video on it, repairing it, getting the wheels all nice and clean. It runs a lot nicer. It doesn't make a loud noise anymore. I'm very happy with this locomotive. Although I am tempted to change the paint scheme. Let me know if you guys think I should do that. Do you think I should change the paint scheme on it, do something different, or should I keep it Tri-Rail? Let me know. Let's move on to the next locomotive. Next up, we've got a bit of a weird one. This is a kit-bashed locomotive that my grandfather made. He put two F units together. I don't know what he was trying to do with this locomotive. It looks like he might have been trying to go for one of those Australian double cab locomotives. But he never actually got this thing running. I ended up putting a model power F unit chassis in it and got it running. But the paintwork is decent, but it doesn't have a road name. It's a completely made up locomotive. So, but I'm just glad that I was able to get it running. So there's that locomotive, custom locomotive. And here we have another custom locomotive, custom road name, that is a B unit. I actually have the engine. Give me 1 second. This is the A unit, another customized locomotive with added on details that my grandfather made. The reason why I haven't been able to get it running though is I need to put I can't put an F unit chassis in this locomotive because he elongated it. It is not the normal size, regular size F unit. So I'd have to put I've put Jeep chassis in there before. I've put lifelike Jeep chassis in here before and it's worked perfectly. But they're lifelike chassis. They're not that great. They break down sometimes. I would like to put something decently, a very good chassis in this locomotive, possibly an Athearn chassis if I can find one that'll fit nicely in here. So I am on the lookout for an Athearn chassis for this locomotive. But that is the SF&L Pacific. So very cool. I love the black. Let's move on to the next locomotive. Here's one for all you old school Marx fans out there. We have a New Haven Marx F unit and B unit, non-powered obviously because it's Marx. Very cool. I've always liked the New Haven paint scheme. I love the orange, white, and black. I've always thought they were really cool. Found this one for a good deal on eBay. I had to get it. It came with a bunch of Marx rolling stock. It came with, I believe, a transformer. It wasn't a Marx transformer. And it also came with a couple of Marx track. The transformer, I believe, was one of those cheap plastic blue and yellow Bachmann transformers. It still works, surprisingly, but I only wanted it because of the deal I got for the engine. So I was very happy with this purchase. Let's move on to our next locomotive, which is another Marx HO locomotive. Here we have a Monon GP9/7. Can't really tell because it's very unrealistic. Body mounts are broken like they always are on these Marx Jeeps. But it's a very nice Marx quality locomotive. This locomotive was actually my grandfather's. The shell was. I had to buy a chassis from eBay to fit underneath one of these. This shell in order to get it to run, and I was so happy to get this thing running again on the layout after seeing this body just lay around for so long since I was a kid. I finally, I actually get to run it around. So this is a cool locomotive. I know it's a little bit rare because it is Monon, but it's a decent quality, in good shape Monon Marx Jeep, which I'm very happy with. So yeah, those are my Marx units, or Marx equipment. Let's get some more stuff over here. Here we have a Revell SW7, SW1200. I think it might be an SW7. I could be wrong. It is a Revell. It is not a band drive Revell. It is a gear. It's a regular motor with a gearbox. This locomotive I found at the Itasca hobby shop for a good price. They said it doesn't run. It runs. It doesn't run great, but it does run. With this being a locomotive that is somewhat very old, I believe this is from the 60s. Quote me if I'm wrong on that. But this is a very cool locomotive. I've always loved the Atlantic Coastline paint scheme. It's actually even got a dude up in there. I thought it was cool. I had to pick it up. I actually went there with a couple of my friends one day, and they saw it, and I had to get it. So I just had to get it. So that's that locomotive. Let's move on to the next one. Let's go with a couple locomotives here. Here we have a Lifelike Gulfmobile in Ohio. And here we have a Lifelike chassis system locomotive. This Gulfmobile in Ohio and this chassis system I both found at the I believe I got these at the same time I got the Atlantic Coastline locomotive. This locomotive originally was a second generation Lifelike that was broken. I put a third generation Lifelike chassis in here with the pancake drive, and it runs decent. It runs somewhat good now that it has, surprisingly, it's got a pancake drive in it, and it runs decent. I got the Gulfmobile in Ohio because it was the cool paint scheme. I thought maybe it was somewhat rare. I could be wrong. It could be very common, but I liked it. I wanted to get it, so I got it. The chassis system, I've always liked the chassis system's paint scheme, so I had to pick it up. And it was on a really cheap deal, so I just had to pick it up. I don't have a lot of chassis system. I'm not really the biggest fan of B&O, but I've always loved this paint scheme, so I just had to pick it up. So those are those two Lifelikes. Over here we have a more modern locomotive, a Metra number 130, City of Harvard. This is the whole reason why I got this locomotive. My hometown is Harvard. I had to get it because of that. So, it's a very cool locomotive. It's a modern Walthers F40PH Metra. I love it. I had to get it. It's a very cool locomotive. Move on to the next guy. Here we have a Jeep. It is a GP40 GT Grand Trunk. Very cool. I've always loved the Grand Trunk. Saw this at the train museum. It was a very good deal for it. Had to get it. There was a lot more Grand Trunk stuff there that at that time that I went. I really wish that I bought more stuff, but I ended up only getting this. It's an Athearn, modern Athearn. I believe it's ready to roll. And it's a very cool locomotive. I've always loved Grand Trunk, so I had to get it. Let's move on to something else. Alright, so now we all know about this locomotive. 4926 BNSF, beautiful -9. Had to pick this one up. Got this one at a train show. A beautiful locomotive. Had to get it. I've always wanted one. Finally have it. It's a DCC locomotive. No sound though. It'd be cooler if it was sound, but I'm perfectly fine with it just being a -9 that's BNSF. I love it. And the last locomotive that's by itself is this very interesting German-looking play art steamer. It has a very weird issue. It squeaks, even though I did oil it and grease it. Although I have noticed, I've watched a SMT Mainline video. Shoutouts to him. Go check him out. He's a very cool YouTuber that does the same kind of stuff that I do. But he does it a lot better than me. Anyway, he's got the same issue with his. His does the same thing. He oiled it, greased it, cleaned it, fixed it, and it still squeaks. I don't know if that's just a main problem with these. If you guys know anything about these play art locomotives, let me know. I know they're toys. They're not really models, but let me know about that. And that does it for all the locomotives that are by themselves. Now we move on to the different road names that I have collected multiples of. The first one we're going to start with is Southern Pacific. To begin with, for Southern Pacific, we have this Southern Pacific Shark Nose made by Tyco, which you can see is missing its power torque drive, which broke, but that just is a Tyco thing. So we'll just move on from that. Maybe a future video to kit bash this one and get it to run, or maybe we'll put a power torque back in this. But that's this locomotive. Then we have these two. The PB and PA1 Southern Pacific. These were my grandfather's. Athearn Blue Box. Very cool locomotives. Part of the Daylight set. I've always loved these locomotives. I've always loved this set. Had a keeping it in as good of shape as I possibly can. But that's the Southern Pacific PA1 and PB1. Move those to the side. And then here we have a Southern Pacific Varney switcher. Very loud locomotive, but it does run. Very cool locomotive. Very old Varney, but it's a very cool, very loud switcher. Don't use it too much, but it does run, which is very cool. Got this one from eBay. And then we have this locomotive, which was a Athearn Blue Box that my best friend found in Kansas while he was there at an antique store. Completely trashed, no handrails, body mounts are broken, and I did as best as I could to get this thing to look pretty decent. And funnily enough, it's one of my best running Athearns that I own. So I'm pretty proud of that. But I did some weathering down here of my own. Attempted. I think it turned out pretty nice. All I did is I took a spray can and I sprayed it farther away from it. Hold a card up here to make it look like it's dirty. I think it looks pretty good. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But that's that locomotive. SD45, by the way. And then we have these two F units, daylight paint scheme, and the gray and red paint scheme. This one I also weathered, did the same thing. This locomotive was actually just a shell that I put a Athearn chassis in, and she runs really nice. I believe it's a proto shell. I could be wrong, let me know. And then this one is a Athearn blue box as well. So, very cool. Big fan of Southern Pacific. So, looking to get a GS4 Daylight. I know they're expensive, but I need a GS4. It's one of my favorite steam locomotives. But that's Southern Pacific done. Let's move on to a different road name. Before we move on, I almost completely forgot about this locomotive because I never use it because it scares me because I don't want to break it. What I have here is an original Varney Aerotrain. That was my grandfather's. In here we have the locomotive shell, we have the chassis, and the original motor. Everything is all original with this. I am very scared of this locomotive. I do not want to break it, but it does run, and it runs pretty well. I just don't use it too often because I'm afraid of hurting it. So, but yeah, original Varney Aerotrain, one of my coolest locomotives that's in my collection. I also have a coach and a bag car that comes with it. See, look at, I'm already hurting stuff. Anyway, I have a coach and a bag car with it, or a coach and a observation car that comes with this set, and they are also in their original boxes. So, but yeah, there we go. Pop the window back into place. Anyway, yeah, very cool locomotive. Don't run it too often because I am scared of it. But we will run it in this video. I hardly ever bring this thing out, but this is definitely an occasion to bring it out for. Anyway, let's move on to our next road name that I have a lot of locomotives with. Okay, so first up we have Chicago Northwestern. We have this FB unit and FA unit, both Athearn blue box. Got these two at a train show. They were on for a good deal. I had to pick them up. It reminds me of the Chicago Northwestern F unit that they have at the train museum in the Illinois Railway Museum. I had to get it. So all I need now is the bilevels, which I know are hard to get, but that's for another day. Let's move on from that. Here we have a Walters Trainline GP20 and a Kato GP35. Both are very cool locomotives. I got this Walters GP20 at I got this from eBay. Very good deal on this locomotive. This one I got at the train museum. Also, very good deal for a Kato locomotive. You might have seen this in a more recent video. Both of them run great. They're very good, cool looking locomotives. So, happy with those two. And for our final Chicago Northwestern locomotive, we have this Walters Mainline DCC and Sound SD50. I got this locomotive because of the locomotive that they recently got at Union. I fell in love with the locomotive they got at Union. I know a lot of people don't like that color of yellow compared to this color of yellow, but I think it's great. I love this locomotive. I love the one they have at Union. It's one of my favorite locomotives in my collection. That's not a Burlington Northern locomotive. But yeah, definitely have to show you guys this one on the layout. I probably have seen it before in a recent video or a past video, but we'll run it again. So that was Chicago Northwestern. All right, now we move on to PRR, Pennsylvania Railroad. We have this Tyco Mantua, with the other way you want to say it, F7. And we have this also a powered B unit. Also Tyco Mantua. Both are powered. I got these at an antique store. Probably paid a little more than I should have paid for them, but I like PRR. I love the Pennsylvania Railroad. I had to get it. Now we all know about this locomotive that's been in a recent video. We have the PRR GG1. As you can see, the side covers already came off. Like I said in that video, I need to hot glue them, but that's neither here nor there. I've been running this locomotive a lot with it being on this new chassis. Runs great. I'm very happy with it. I'm definitely sold on this idea. So we're going to move forward with the AHM plastic chassis. But definitely cannot wait to get this running perfect with couplers and some passenger cars. It'd be great to see that running around the layout. Loved it. I know it's not a real GG1, but it's still pretty cool. And to all the Tyco fans out there, I'm sorry. I had to do it. That's the Pennsylvania Railroad. Let's move on to another road name. Alright, so next up is going to be the Burlington Route, the CB&Q. First we start out with this Tyco Mantua GP20. Very good locomotive. We got this at the train museum, or at Itasca. Very cool locomotive. Had to get it. Was on a good deal. Said it didn't run. Runs perfectly fine. So I'm very happy with it. That's the GP20. And we have this steamer. IHC 04240 consolidation class steamer. Made by IHC. Very good locomotive. Probably my best running steamer that I own. Very happy with it. But that's Burlington Route. Definitely need to collect some more Burlington Route locomotives, but that's what we have for Burlington Route. Let's move on. Next up, we have the Illinois Central. Right here, we have the Illinois Central Gulf Tyco. Just Tyco. Tyco Power Torque. Still has a Power Torque drive in it. So I haven't gutted this one yet, and I'm going to try not to. Because I'd like to at least keep some Tyco Power Torques in my registry. Anyway, got this. This is my first locomotive that got me back into the hobby. It's one of the reasons why I don't want to mess with it. But I got this at the train museum, and it was the first locomotive that brought me back into the hobby, that made me go back under the steps and get everything back out. So I have to thank this locomotive for a lot. So, but yeah, it's a cool locomotive. I've always loved the Illinois Central Gulf paint scheme, so that's very cool. Next up, we have the Illinois Central E8. A lot like the one Iowa Pacific that they have at the train museum, except it's in the correct label. One reason, and one reason only, why I got this locomotive. I love the song City of New Orleans. And this is the city of New Orleans. I have some of the passenger cars. I need to finish my collection of all the passenger cars, and then I can run around the city of New Orleans around my layout. But this was the start. The River Rossi E8, very, very cool locomotive. It's a single motor, now that I know that there's actually ones that have two motors in them. It's not a dummy. It's a powered single motor locomotive. Runs pretty good for a River Rossi E8. I'm very happy with it. Also, if you ever guys get one of these, be careful with this badge on the front. It is a sticker. It is not printed, which is interesting to me. I found that pretty surprising. Next up, we have the Operation Lifesaver Illinois Central GP40. Death Star paint scheme. I've always loved the Death Star paint scheme of these Illinois Central locomotives towards the end of Illinois Central's life. But I've always loved this. This paint scheme is always great. It's one of the reasons why I had to get it. I actually got this the same day that I got the Grand Trunk and Western locomotive. So, but yeah, this one is great. I love it. Also an Athearn. So, but yeah, that's it for Illinois Central. Let's move on. Next up, we have my second favorite railroad that is not the Burlington Northern. It is the Milwaukee Road. First up, we have this SD9 Milwaukee Road. Got this at the train store in Itasca. Athearn Blue Box. Pretty good locomotive. Runs pretty nice. Had to pick it up. It's a very nice locomotive. I'm very happy with this guy. I run him a lot. Let's move on to our next Milwaukee Road locomotive. Kind of a weird one. Always loved the Trainmaster. If you guys ever played Trains 2007, the Train Sim game, the horn on those Trainmasters in those games is just amazing. I've always loved the Trainmaster. I've always thought it's probably one of my favorite Canadian locomotives. This one, however, is in the Milwaukee Road paint scheme. It would be really cool if it was in the Canadian National green and yellow. I've always loved the Canadian National paint schemes. But this paint scheme is pretty nice too because, like I said, I am a big Milwaukee Road fan. And this is Milwaukee Road. So, very cool Trainmaster. Actually, this one has been modified. There's no contact piece between these two trucks. It's actually soldered with wires, which is interesting. I know that's a more common thing that happens to these, to get rid of that contact piece, but this one is modified, which is interesting to me. Got this one from eBay as well. Then we have this locomotive, which is an Athearn Blue Box, U30B, or U30C, whichever one, I'm not sure. Another Milwaukee Road locomotive, very cool. Another one that I tried weathering. Not sure how I feel about the weathering on this one, but I think it looks cool. Definitely, somebody's added detail to it. They put number boards on the front. Not on the back, though, because Milwaukee Road had the weird thing where they did it on the side of the locomotive here, right up top. So, but yeah, that's my Milwaukee Road diesels. Now we'll move on to my Milwaukee Road steamer. This is my Rivarossi Milwaukee Road Pacific. This steam engine has probably given the most issues of any engine that I own in my collection. But I beat it. It is running. It is an Italian Rivarossi. And I like to say Rivarossis are like old Italian cars. You just need to be nice to them and give them what they want. And just hope and pray, pretty much. But right now, she is a good runner. She runs nice. I actually did a motor swap on this locomotive. I actually upgraded to a CAN motor on this locomotive, which I didn't do the greatest job with it, but it does run, and I'm pretty happy with it. So, and luckily, no zinc pest, no zinc rot, no zinc pest in this locomotive whatsoever, which is just great. So, that's that. Okay, so next up we have Union Pacific. We have this SD40-2 that I got at a train show. Had to pick it up. I love the weathering job on it. Thought it was very cool. Doesn't run the greatest, but it does run, so I am very happy with it. Pretty good purchase. I think I got this thing for 20 bucks. So, missing a horn though. But that's okay. We can find one for it. Not too big of a fan of Union Pacific, but it's Union Pacific. You gotta have some in your collection. So, but yeah, that's my Union Pacific SD40-2. Now we have these two Lifelikes. We have a GP38 High Hood by Lifelike, 2007. Pretty cool. It's in pretty good shape. And then we have this F40PH Lifelike that is also made by Lifelike. I think I just said that. Handrails are still intact. It's a very cool locomotive. Also runs pretty nice. And then we have, of course, the locomotive that we are working on, the DD40 by Athearn Blue Box. This locomotive is very cool. If you guys don't know the story with this, I got this at the train museum for 10 bucks. Still don't know how that happened, but it did. I got this thing for $10. Very cool. And that's it for Union Pacific. 2 more road names left. I lied. I'm not done with Union Pacific. I have this Bachmann Union Pacific Mikado. Here's the tender. Here's the locomotive. It's got the classic Bachmann issue. The messed up wheels, broken axles, as you can see. Well, right now there you go, right there. Got the classic Bachmann issue of broken axles, which is a pain. I wish it didn't have that issue, but what can you do? It's a Bachmann. But that is the Union Pacific now done. Now we move on to Santa Fe, which is obligatory to like Santa Fe if you like Burlington Northern. So, anyway, we'll start with a steamer. This is a 484 Bachmann steamer. That was my grandfather's. Unfortunately, it has the same issue, which is upsetting to me because, like I said, it is my grandfather's. I'd love to be able to keep it running, but I have no idea on how to fix it. So if you guys know anything of how to fix these Bachmanns that have this issue, please let me know, because I would love to get this thing running on my layout again. So it's a very pretty locomotive, very pretty steamer, and it's also the biggest steamer that I own. So, but yeah. And here is the tender for it, by the way. Now we have the Santa Fe Hobbytown SD45 right here. This is a very cool locomotive. It's an Athearn blue box shell on top of a Hobbytown swap chassis, which is a very cool setup. I had to see that. I saw this one at the train museum and I had to get it, so it was very cool. Next we have we'll keep with the blue paint scheme, I guess. Lifelike GP38. I've always loved the blue and yellow Santa Fe paint scheme. It's missing couplers, but it does run, I believe, so that is a very cool, one of my favorite paint schemes of this. And then to follow that up, we have a GP20 or GP9, I can't really tell. Low hood Santa Fe Proto 2000, which is one of the reasons why I got it. I got this at a train show. When I got this locomotive, it was a very angry, squeaky locomotive, but now she runs just like a top. She's beautiful, and I love it. Missing a front coupler though, so I am on the lookout for a replacement for the missing coupler. Probably have to steal one off another Proto 2000. Now we have the red and yellow, or the red and silver. Another Lifelike GP38, same road number because Lifelike did the same thing. They just painted different paint schemes. Even throughout different road names, I think they kept the same number. Actually, you know what? I'm wrong about that because the chassis system is 3810 or 2810. So yeah, I'm wrong about that. Anyway, another pancake drive Lifelike. Very cool locomotive. This one has its couplers. Very happy with that one. That one I believe I've got at I think I got this one at Itasca at the train show, or the train museum, or God, I'm tripping up on my words. I got this one at Itasca, the train shop. And here we have a Model Power F unit, Santa Fe. Pretty basic. This one was my grandfather's. And here we have a Bachmann Santa Fe FT. Very cool locomotive. I got this one at a train show. I had to pick it up because it was calling my name. I had to get it. And then we have this very cool locomotive, Athearn Blue Box -9. It is a red and yellow, or red and silver paint scheme. The war bonnet paint scheme, Athearn Blue Box. Now this actually was this is DCC. Somebody hardwired a decoder into this locomotive. Although this locomotive does not like to run well, it has some electrical issues that I'm trying to figure out. I'm kind of scared to mess with it because I don't really know too much about the decoder system and how they work and all that. But I am willing to try to get this thing to run perfect because it's cool. It's a -9 and it's in the Santa Fe paint scheme. So I'm pretty happy with that. That is it for Santa Fe. And now we move on to the road name that you all have been waiting for. The name of my channel. Let me go get the locomotives real quick. Okay, so for Burlington Northern, we have to start, a Lifelike GP38-2, number 2098. This was in a recent fix video. We actually found that this locomotive was way over oiled, and we actually cleaned it and got it running like a top. Beautiful locomotive. Very good Lifelike pancake drive locomotive. Next up, we have the AHM switcher, which I said I was going to do a video on. Found out that really, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just kind of tired, really. So, we're just going to leave it. Runs, not great, but it is a cool AHM switcher. Plastic body switcher. That one I got from eBay. This one, number 181, this one was a Lionel Bachmann locomotive that my grandfather owned, and it broke. The chassis broke, and I ended up modifying it, putting a Model Power chassis in it to get it to run. Put some handrails on here because I broke all the handrails off when I was a kid, and this is the only handrail that remains, actually. And but yeah, this is the 181 GP30. That was my grandfather's. And this one, I forgot to say, this one I got from the Itasca train shop. So, but yeah, that's the 181. Next up, we have one of my favorite BN locomotives that I own. Probably the reason why I decided to try and weather it, which I think it turned out pretty nice. It's a B23 locomotive, I believe. GE B23. I added these visors. I think they turned out, they're not great, but they're not bad. So I think they turned out cool. Made those out of polystyrene. This is a locomotive that's a Bachmann. I believe it's a Spectrum. I could be wrong. I think it's a Spectrum, but it is a Bachmann. I do know that. So, this is a very cool locomotive. Probably one of my favorite locomotives in the collection. This one I got from eBay for a very good deal. Next up, we have a Model Power Alco 630. I could be wrong. It's a Century. I know it's a Century, but I don't remember the numbers. This one is very cool. I got this one at a train show. When I went to go buy this locomotive, the gentleman who sold it to me said to take care of it, and I plan to do just that. So, I'm taking very good care of this locomotive. She runs great. So, I'm very happy with this Alco. Next up, we have my other second favorite locomotive in my collection. This is probably the second most run locomotive that's in my collection. The most time, this one's probably spends most of the time on the layout. A GP50 made by Blue Box, Athearn. That is the Tiger Stripe paint scheme. Very rare Tiger Stripe paint scheme for Burlington Northern. I had to pick one up. Actually have a picture of this real locomotive sitting on my computer, actually, as my screensaver, because I love the paint scheme so much. But it runs great. I did some work to this locomotive also on this channel, and now she runs perfect. Got that one on eBay. Probably paid too much for it, but to get your dream locomotive, you gotta pay a little extra, you know? This one is originally a second generation Lifelike F unit. Put a pancake drive F unit in here. She runs great. Got this one also from eBay. Came with a caboose. Very cool. No F units weren't really Burlington Northern's thing, but it is cool to have a couple because their paint scheme was great for their F units. So, but yeah, we've got that. Then we have the Cox F3 locomotive that I got from the train museum. Oiled it up after the last video that this locomotive was in, and now she runs great. It's very loud, but that's because it's an old locomotive. They usually are old. All the old model locomotives are usually loud. So, but it runs great. It has really no issues anymore, so I'm pretty happy with it. And like I said earlier, I love the paint scheme. So there's that. Then we have the twins, the Rivarossi E8 twins that I own. One of them is not like the other. One of them was my grandfather's, and one of them is the twin motor. Can you guess which one is which? If you guys guessed this one, that's correct. This is the twin motor. This is the one that was my grandfather's. Probably because you could tell the super glue. Anyway, this one is a single motor Rivarossi E8. Runs great. I actually did some work to this to get it to be perfect. It actually has the issue where truck will swing out because it's broken here in the back. That part's broken. That part there is not there on this side. But she runs great. That's all that matters. Actually has a light in the front. Unlike this one. This one I got from eBay, not knowing it was a twin motor locomotive. Probably the coolest Rivarossi E8 that I've ever seen. Missing a front coupler. It does have the rear coupler, but that's really all I care about. And it's got both its horns, which are very fragile, which is why you can see super glue over here. But I am happy with both of these locomotives. I love both of them. Would love to collect the Burlington Northern Empire Builder for these locomotives, but I know that's going to be a pain because they're rare. So, I actually saw a set of Burlington Northern Empire Builder cars at the train shop in Itasca, but I decided not to get them because they were not in the greatest of shape. Now that I think about it, I probably should have got them, but it is what it is. You snooze, you lose. So, now we move on to our final two locomotives that are in my collection, BN2 and BN1 in the executive paint scheme. Now, if you saw my recent trip to the train museum, you saw the real, actual locomotives. And, yeah, you can see that they're not perfectly accurate, but it's accurate enough, and that's all I care about. And they're sound locomotives. They're DCC and sound. Bought this one from a second-hand website. I believe it was either Trains, Spring Creek Valley Trains, or something like that. And I paid probably way too much for these two locomotives, but I'm very happy with them, and I love them dearly. But yeah, that is all the locomotives that are in my collection. I hope you guys enjoyed every single locomotive that I own. I am planning to make this collection grow exponentially. I would love to keep collecting and collecting and collecting. But with that, though, I'm going to leave part 2 for the next video because I have been recording for almost an hour now. So I'm going to cut this video up into 2 parts. The second part will be me running all the locomotives on my layout. I hope you guys will be there for that. And again, I cannot thank you guys enough for getting me to 100 subscribers on this channel. I didn't even think that I would ever even get 2 subscribers on this channel. So I'm very, very grateful of you guys. But with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, and as always, peace.